Recruiting never stops, so neither do we here at Locked On Bama.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back into Locked On Bama, AHSA Radio Network's Luke Robinson. That's me. Alabama internet legend Jimmy Stein. That's him. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. We'll talk about Monarch Money in just a bit. Want to thank you every day for being every day. Thank you, newbies, for being here today. And thanks, everybody, for making this your first listen every single day. You guys are the best. Jimmy, we're going to talk some softball, baseball, basketball stuff at the third segment. We're going to profile a walk-on sometime in the second segment. We're going to start off with recruiting because recruiting's where it's at, baby. We love recruiting. The one thing we don't love about recruiting is when recruits we won't commit to other places, and one person who's done that is Elbert Hill. We've been talking about him. We've been bragging about him, saying, hey, we think we got a real shot, and he's committed to USC, seemingly out of the blue. Now, I saw him BOL, Tim Watson, some others like, that we could sort of see this coming, and maybe, but here's my bet. He doesn't go to USC.
Yeah. USC's sort of built up a kind of almost like a reputation lately for decommitments. They get a lot of high-profile guys that commit, and then they decommit. I would also point out that Lincoln Riley won like 11 games in his year one out there, 8 games in his year 2, 7 games in his year 3. And it's kind of hard to believe that they're selling kids that USC has good momentum. They clearly have some NIL money, signing 5-star prospects from the other end of the continent generally takes some good NIL money. But, Alabama fans shouldn't be alarmed at this whatsoever. Cornerback recruiting if Alabama's cornerback recruiting ended today, it would still be outstanding with 2 top 100 type players and Jordan Edmonds and Zion Gibson, both committed. Zion, by the way, had an outstanding performance in the state track meet this weekend. Alabama's doing really well at corner. Elbert Hill would be nice. It's not over because, again, he could easily decommit, change his mind, as so many have that have committed to Southern Cal. So Alabama is still in good shape with Brandon Arrington, who's a 5-star cornerback prospect. Looks like it might be Alabama-Oregon battle there. But Alabama's got a real good shot. And the Elbert Hill thing's not over. But again, hey, if you end with Zion Gibson and Jordan Edmonds, home run.
No, I totally agree. And again, what is USC's selling point? I mean, we're just backing up to get a running start. I mean, what exactly are they selling? Because things have gotten tougher for USC. They're in a much tougher conference now. USC has a rich history. If you're talking about the top probably 7, 8 programs of all time, USC's in there. I believe that. Now, I don't think they're number 1, 2, 3, or 4, but I believe they're in that next tier. And they certainly have some stuff to sell. And it's in Los Angeles. Apparently, it's not in the best part of Los Angeles. I've actually been there for a game. I've been to USC to see USC play Ohio State back, it was the same night as Auburn, Mississippi State, when Auburn won 3-2. I don't remember the exact date. I just know that happened because I was keeping up with it the same time.
Is the Coliseum a long drive from USC's campus, or is it fairly nearby?
Oh, God, I wish you hadn't asked me because I don't remember. I just remember going there and thinking the tailgating was kind of, it wasn't great.
Well, it's not on campus. It's like an NFL game.
It's sort of like going to Penn State. I went to the Penn State game when Alabama played them in the early 2010s, or I guess it was 2011 we played them. And it was a fun game, but it's in a goat ranch. I mean, it's in a pasture, the whole stadium, and it's way away from everything. So I'm much more. I wish it was on campus so I'd get a feel for the campus. But regardless, so Elbert Hill commits to USC. Again, I don't think this is a huge deal. I don't. I think this is a bump in the road for Ohio State and Alabama is what I think. Because I think
kind of a bigger loss for Ohio State when you consider the fact that he's from there.
100%, but it's not a loss. I mean, again, this is Christy Brinkley dating Billy Joel. Eventually, she's going to break up with him because he ain't attractive. They might be married a while, but she ain't going to stay with him forever.
Billy Joel taking strays today.
Yeah, no, I shouldn't. Billy Joel's like, what are you talking about? So anyway, at least I got money. What do you got? All right. So other recruiting news, Jimmy, what you got for us?
I saw Billy Joel play once, and he sang. It was just awesome. He sang like one of his great love songs, and the whole stadium just enraptured, and it was so great and sweet, and just one of the great love songs of all time. And then he played the final note, and people are applauding, just at the, huge applause. And he said, "And we got divorced anyway."
It's pretty good. Also, in Step Brothers, when Horatio Sands' band does only Billy Joel doo-wop is pretty funny. But anyway, Jimmy, other recruiting news.
Yeah, sure. Well, what I'm intrigued about today with recruiting talk to me is offensive line recruiting, because here's the deal. Alabama has one commitment there. They would like to sign, in terms of like a goal here, I think the goal here would be 2 interior guys and 2 tackles. That's kind of like the goal. Like, okay, ideally, let's aim for this. Let's end with this. And they're in on a lot of good players, not top of the line 5-star tackles like they did last year. They signed 2 5-star players on the offensive line a year ago, and Jackson Lloyd and Michael Carroll. I don't know if they'll be able to pull that off again in this landscape, but they are recruiting a lot of really good players. But of all the positions, if I was projecting what the list is going to look like in December, this is the hardest one to project, because there's 8 or 9, maybe even 10 offensive linemen that they're recruiting really hard that are all coming in for official visits in the next month or 2. I don't want to take any of them off because it feels like they're in good shape for all these guys. But I also don't really want to plug anybody in. There's not like a ton of confidence I have in any one particular lineman. Like, hey, I think they're in perfect shape for this guy, and I would project him to sign. I don't even know that I can name that one guy. Conversely, like I said, I don't want to take anybody off. So I think between Bryson Cooley, who they saw this week from Mississippi, Malachi Lee, from Hawaii, is one of the top tackles. He loves Alabama. If I had to pick one guy, maybe Sam Utu loves Alabama. Another guy out west, he's got positional versatility. He can play tackle or guard. Micah Smith, who had a great video that he shot of his unofficial visit to Alabama the other day. I watched the whole thing. It was like 10 minutes long. But we got to really see Micah Smith, clear high priority for Alabama. He's from Vero Beach, Florida. Another solid player. How about Zyke Hilton, who was committed to the old staff as like a 9th grader, had an illness, lost a lot of weight, decommitted. Now he's back fully healthy, and the new staff now, they're on board. But Georgia's made up a lot of ground with him. This guy's probably a center type prospect, but he's good. He's another one that I wouldn't pencil him into, hey, this is who I think Alabama's going to sign, but you definitely can't rule him out. So offensive line recruiting is fascinating because it's very difficult to predict. But what looks apparent is Alabama's going to sign a solid group there. It won't be like last year. It won't be Lloyd and Carroll like last year. But since you signed Lloyd and Carroll last year, take some of the pressure off in terms of having to hit, grand slam home runs there. This time around, what you need is a really solid group. Chris Booker, who's already committed, just as we predicted, is climbing rankings. He's going on other visits. Other big-time SEC programs want Chris Booker, but he seems solidly committed to Alabama. He's one of the interior guys. So those are just my thoughts on offensive line recruiting. Go in any number of directions. If I had to pick one that looks very likely for Alabama, I would go with Utu, but that's not with a high degree of confidence. And again, if you name an offensive lineman that's visiting Alabama this summer, I would tell you, for all of them, I would say very good shot, very realistic.
Well, because Coach Cap is doing an amazing job, and he's apparently a fantastic recruiter. There's no doubt about that. So we're going to come back, talk a little more recruiting, and then we're also going to talk another walk-on profile. Got to tell you about Supply House, though. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades. That's Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done correctly. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from more than 400 top brands, you'll find exactly what you need, and it's delivered fast from coast to coast. Telling you, it's awesome. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you always talk to a real person. And trade pros looking for an extra edge, and I know you're out there. Their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM, supplyhouse.com/TM, and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.Jimmy.
Come.
All right, so I just looked on BLL, and that May 30th, June 1st weekend, Katie bar the door. That's going to be some highfalutin, high rent district stuff. Jet Washington, Nolan Wilson, Sincere Johnson, Titan Davis, Kevin Ford, Braden Rouse, Tamarian Watkins, who we hadn't even really talked about, from Rock Hill, South Kakalaki, JJ Finch, who we do love, from Indianapolis. And you and I love him. Just to name a few, man, that if you can be in Tuscaloosa and be extra gumpy and just be there for folks and just tell them, hey, Sincere Johnson, what's up? We'd love to have you. You need to do that week.
Actually,
you don't have anything else going on.
No, I was walking around the stadium one day, just literally out on a walk during an official visit weekend, and if you walk right by the stadium, they're obviously doing that photo shoot that they do inside the locker room, and they play music, and it is loud. I mean, it's like, boy, there's some loud official visiting going on in there. But no, it is a huge weekend. Again, Alabama's recruiting, I talked about it with the offensive line. It's really almost across the board that way. It's getting where it's kind of hard to project who's going to sign because Alabama's in such great shape for so many. You know, it won't be that many, but it's kind of hard to pick out, okay, but which guy do you feel like is a lock? That's when Luke and I the other day were like, okay, who's going to commit next? I think we both sort of settled on EJ Kroll, and just because there's so few guys, maybe CD Morgan, that you're like, okay, Alabama wants this guy, and this guy is very, very high on Alabama and is likely to pick them. That's why I think recruiting is going to be exciting. But like Luke said, there's so many big names coming. These are big names in the recruiting world. The class is clearly going to be great. It's just kind of hard to predict who's going to be a part of it.
Yeah, and again, it's a top 5 class with very few commitments so far. And
yeah.
I still see some people complaining, which is just baffling to me. But
it's like, didn't they follow this? It's nothing's different this year than last year.
That's right.
Nothing's different. I mean, right. How could you see what happened last year and then go, oh, but this year it's different? It's not. I mean, it's now I do think that a couple things have me thinking it won't be exactly like last year. Number one is last year, the recruiting class was spearheaded. The tip of the spear was a 5-star quarterback. That's not going to happen this year. And so much in a recruiting class, people look to quarterback first, and that's probably where Alabama is going to do a little more average than the other positions. Why? Because you signed a 5-star last year that everyone knows is going to be a multiple-year starter here, and he's going to be very difficult to beat out. So you're probably not going to sign a big-time quarterback. Doesn't mean you won't sign a really good one that has a chance to develop, but I think not having a 5-star quarterback is going to affect some people's opinions of the group. Which is, let's just see what those opinions are. But I'm very confident Alabama's going to sign another really good group, and I'm comfortable in predicting, top 5. If I'm wrong, no worse than top 8.
I mean, I'm easily going to go top 5. I'd be, in fact, if it's less than 6, I'd be kind of like
surprised,
confused.
Yeah.
But I stay that way. All right, so walk-on profiling. Jimmy, you have got one more walk-on to profile. Do we have any more after that? Or you?
Yeah. I got one each day this week, and then we'll start we'll start the scholarship ranking process, ranking the roster next week. 1 week from today is when we'll start that. So we got 5 more walk-ons at least to talk about, and the one I'll talk about today, Peter Knudsen, tight end. Walk on. Boy, we got a bunch of tight ends. And here's the thing about Knudsen. He's a lot like the 2 scholarship tight ends they just bought in the portal. Brody Dalton, who Alabama signed from Troy, and Jackson Marco from West Virginia. Peter Knudsen's a lot like them. He's a transfer like them. He's a senior. He's been playing for multiple seasons, been a significant player at Weber State, way out there, out west. He's a block first guy, like 6'4", 250 type, huge. But the reason we have to mention Knudsen and why he's up here with the last of the walk-ons that we're mentioning, because we're going to mention the really guys that are close to playing here down the stretch. Peter Knudsen on A day was tight end number 2. I mean, Jay Lindsey was the first team tight end. Peter Knudsen was taking reps with the ones.
Now that is injury related.
There's no doubt that's injury related. No doubt. But he's out there with the ones, so he must be mentioned as a significant walk-on this team. And again, a block first guy. I think he caught, off the top of my head, around 9 balls his junior year at Weber State. So even though he was the starting tight end at Weber State, they were not throwing the ball to the tight end a lot, but he does have college football experience, and Alabama invited him to walk on based on being a quality blocker. Will we see Peter Knudsen on the field this fall? I think there's a good chance we'll see him in garbage time. I don't know that he will still be with the ones when all the guys come back from injury. Plus, you've added Brody Dalton, you've added Jack Samarco. He's probably going to be behind those guys, but I'm basing that on, hey, Dalton's coming from Troy, Samarco's coming from West Virginia. This guy was at Weber State, and this guy was walked on, whereas the other guys were recruited here to be scholarship players. But y'all should know the name Peter Knudsen, again, who got reps with the ones this spring, a transfer portal walk-on from Weber State, and he's a senior, so he'll be a one-and-done guy in Tuscaloosa.
What state's he from?
I think he might be from Idaho.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's from out there, and I read his bio a few days ago. I wish I'd read it in preparation for this show, but I think in high school he was like a quarterback. I remember reading his bio and thinking, gosh, this is a pretty good catch for Weber State coming out of high school. But again, from Idaho, probably not exactly like being a high school quarterback from Georgia, with the talent level in Idaho. But I think this guy, he's certainly going to help the room. Hey, every walk-on, what you want from a walk-on, you don't bring in a walk-on, you're like, hey, one day this guy's going to start. If that's the situation, then your recruiting is really screwed up. You should be signing scholarship guys who are scheduled to start. But what you want from a walk-on, the ideal walk-on, is a guy that's good enough to help you at practice. He's got to go up against our scholarship front 7 guys and give them a good look, give them a quality body to practice against, because the better player you practice against, the better that makes you. That's what you want, a quality walk-on that helps you on the practice field. That's the goal. If they actually are so good they get in the games, that's the cherry on top of the gravy, which is pretty gross.
Jeez, where do you get your desserts? Anyway, you could probably get that at Cracker Barrel, I'll be honest. But it does make me think about something a little personal. All right, I have a son who's never played football before until last year. And he started playing for the, last summer. And he said, I just want to play football this year. And I'm like, okay, but you're about to get the heck beat out of you. And I was like, I'm for it. I think it's a positive. I think getting the heck beat out of you is a positive. You need to be humbled occasionally. You need to understand. You can't beat on people until you get the crap beat out of you. I really believe that in football. So anyway, he was through the summer and they didn't really have a position for him. He's never weight lifted. He's never done anything. He's a string bean. And he's not, he's athletic enough, but he's not super athletic. He's not crazy athletic. So they put him at defensive back. And, we went to, when he came here for Thanksgiving this last year, he said, Dad, do you think I can be quarterback? I said, no. What are you talking about? And
you're like Rocky's wife.
I know. I may be a bad dad.
You can't win.
But I think that I was like, Walker, I'm sitting here throwing it with you. I'm a much better quarterback than you, and I couldn't play quarterback. and I'm 52, and I was like, he was like, well, I want to try. I said, buddy, you try whatever you want to. I'm all for it. You're asking for my honest opinion. I'm not going to give you the Disney Plus, hey, you can do it if you put your mind to it. No, you need several minds to do this. And, well, I'll tell you what, he started doing and he's just he's just been staying at it, and I'm so proud of him. And look, I don't think he's ever going to play, right? I don't think he's ever going to get meaningful snaps. I don't know if he'll get any snaps, but I'm so proud of him for sticking with it. And that, I was like, that's all I want. Bottom line, what I'm saying is, I said, Walker, if you do this, the great thing about playing quarterback is by osmosis, I feel like you learn the other positions. So if you're a quarterback and then they move you to tight end because they're like, you just aren't a good quarterback. I mean, that may be the same thing with Knudsen, where you go, okay, we know you're not going to play quarterback, but you know what a quarterback's thinking. You've been there. So you may not have the reflexes and everything may not be firing from your brain to your arm to make it happen on time as a quarterback, but you know what the quarterback's thinking, so you know where to go. And that's what I told him. I said, this is where this is a huge positive, is that if you keep at it, even if you never play, first of all, I'm super proud of you. This is my proud dad moment. Like, I don't care if he ever plays. I'm so thrilled he's sticking with it. It means a lot to me. But I'm like, you will also learn to think quicker on your feet. You will also learn how important it is to be a part of a team. I mean, I just think there's so much, especially in football, but especially with quarterback, that makes you get better as a player all over the field. So maybe the fact that this walk-on was a quarterback at one time can lead to his getting some playing time at some point. But again, as a fan, I'm hoping it never comes to that, because if our walk-ons are playing, it's probably usually not great. Not everybody's an Antoine Petway story.
And we also have like 7 scholarship tight ends.
And we've got 32 tight ends.
Now, a lot of them are seniors. Like Cuevas is a senior. Brody Dalton's a senior. You're going to be losing, some of these guys. And Danny Lewis is a redshirt junior. So you're going to lose some of these guys. But 7 scholarship tight ends now. It's going to make it difficult if the 8th guy, I think Peter Knudsen would be the top walk-on. So he's the 8th guy. But boy, you wouldn't figure the 8th tight end would see a lot of snaps. But we saw the crazy injury situation that happened for Alabama this spring at tight end. That can happen during the season. And now you're depending on some of these guys at the bottom of the ladder. So you want them all to bring something to the table. Knudsen is a blocker first. My guess is they're going to be pretty comfortable with him getting the position blocked to a degree.
Let's talk a little Monarch Money, because it's awesome. Have you ever checked your bank account and wondered, hey, where'd all my money go? I have. Did it this morning. Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal chief financial officer, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just another budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, all your investments, and spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and you start building some wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized how much I was spending on online food delivery, and it was a lot. Now I budget smarter and I save more. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. monarchmoney.com. Okay, we'll end the show with a few odd and ends, non-football-y. First of all, Rylan Griffin, I did a little short on this. Rylan Griffin commits to Texas A&M. Things just couldn't get hammered out between him and the staff for whatever reason. I think the staff was hoping that some things would get worked out, but I don't know that they could get some assurances they wanted. I'll leave it at that. Not the end of the world. Let's not pretend. While we all loved Rylan Griffin, and again, I love Mo Diabate. This is not a shot at Mo Diabate or Rylan Griffin. Let's not pretend that they're all SEC players. They're not. They're very good puzzle pieces, and I love to have them. They're important to teams. It doesn't mean that they would be. If Rylan Griffin came here, he ain't the best player on the team. In fact, I'm not 100% sure he'd start next year.
No. I think he's very similar as a player to the Bethea kid they got from Miami, and I'm more eager to see Bethea. I mean, in terms of getting 30 minutes, I would like to see what it would look like with Bethea before I'd want to see what it looked like with Rylan, because I sort of know what it looks like with Rylan. And again, I think if you sign Rylan, you bring him in. Why? Because he's a great perimeter defender. I think as fans, we focus a lot on points and shooting, but it's the other end of the floor is even more important, in my opinion. And I think Nate would agree with that. And Rylan is a really good perimeter defender. So in that sense, it's a loss. But hey, it can be worked out or it can't. There's a reason Rylan left the first time around. And
Right.
it's kind of like, as we said the other day in our crazy analogies, it's getting back together with your ex. There's a reason they were an ex, and that reason probably hasn't changed.
Yeah. I mean, how often do people really truly change? It ain't often. And again, this isn't a shot at Rylan. Sometimes two things just aren't compatible. Two good people may not be compatible. A good program and a good person may not be compatible for whatever reason. I'm not mad at Rylan. I hate that we have to play against him potentially twice, because I think we only played A&M once last year. So my guess is we might play him twice this year. I don't know. That the way the schedules go now is so funky. Who knows what's going to happen? Speaking of schedules, Alabama has added Yale to the schedule. Some people are like, "Oh, take that, Auburn." Well, look, let's beat them first before we say take that, Auburn, please.
Exactly.
So
and I hope now that we got a pretty good idea what the roster might look like, it's partially a reaction to that, but really it's just, I think Nate has kind of bitten off too much with the scheduling. I hope we scale it back, not dramatically, but we've been playing like the toughest schedule. How about we play like the 10th toughest schedule?
Yeah.
You're still way the heck up there, and that's going to help you in March and in the net and the RPI and all that stuff. It's still going to help you a lot.
Having said that, we've made the Elite Eight 2 years in a row, in the Sweet 16 3 years in a row. I mean, it's worked out. I mean, I get what you're saying, though. It would be prettier if we had two more surefire wins. If you had 2 wins to each of the last 3 schedules and take off 2 losses, our records look unbelievable. They're great now.
I'm not sure about this roster minus Phylon. See, I'm still assuming there'll be no Phylon. I know some of y'all listening are like, no, Phylon will be there. I'm assuming he's not.
I mean, I'm begging him, but
without Phylon, I don't know how this team would hold up against the literal number 1 schedule.
I'm with you 100%. And not only that, there's so much to learn. There's so many new bodies. There's a lot to learn here. If this team had been together last year, like the same group of guys, I'd be like, bring it on. We got chemistry.
The roadmap for this upcoming team isn't, hey, dominant from day one, which was sort of the idea for last year. This year, to me, it would be sort of like, hey, let's improve. Let's identify roles. Let's have a couple of guys step up, and let's be playing our best basketball in March and maybe get hot at the exact right moment, like the Final Four team a couple of years ago did. Play your best basketball in the Sweet 16 and Elite 8 rounds, but I think getting to that point might be a little bit rockier with this group.
Because, again, for the millionth time, I'd rather go 20-10 and make the Final Four than go 30-2 and lose in the Sweet 16. I'm not sure that that's the right way to look at it all. I know that's the way I look at it now.
The season is defined by what happened. Where Nate Oates has put Alabama in this Duke, North Carolina, Kentucky territory, is the season is defined entirely by what happens in the NCAA tournament.
Okay, softball, they kind of stunk it up against South Carolina. But they play Auburn. We didn't play Auburn in the regular season, which is weird.
Correct. That's crazy weird, isn't it? And a little bit bad luck because Auburn just hasn't been good this year.
They're not good, but we do play them first round of the SEC tournament. I'm still going to say this. I'm a Pat Murphy guy. I know there's some people like, hey, it's time for a change. We've had, the last X amount of seasons, we've had a losing record in the SEC play, whatever. SEC is a beast of a league, and I think we'll be okay. I'm all for giving him ample opportunity to make it right. So softball, hey, game 1 against Auburn, that at least makes things a little interesting. Baseball, today they play Vanderbilt again for the rubber match. They won last night, which was very nice. And they play Georgia next week. Georgia's a very good team. I'm going to be there Friday night with the fam, so if you see me, say hi. Everything's sort of going along with baseball. It's not great. It's not awful. It's closer to great than awful. How about that?
Both baseball and softball, really. Softball needs softball did have the one huge win at South Carolina. They run ruled them in game 1. Game 2, they had some really bad luck. With some balls and strikes calls. Murph almost got ejected over it, and they had a big inning because of a couple walks that were highly questionable, balls that were, down the middle that were for some reason called balls. But softball, that was a tough, South Carolina is really high in the RPI. That was a tough road series, but they won 1 of 3 and could have easily won 2 of 3. They can host an NCAA regional, but they're going to have to do well in this SEC tournament. I think winning a couple of games, beat Auburn, who's one of the few SEC teams that's not that good. So you got to beat Auburn Tuesday. Then you play a really good that South Carolina team. But now you got them in a neutral site, and that ought to be a really good matchup. That game might determine. I hate to put it on that game might determine whether Alabama hosts a regional. Beat South Carolina, you probably host a regional. Lose that game, now it's more of a roll of the dice as to whether you get one of those 16 regional spots. Baseball on track to host a regional for sure as of right now, but there's still a few SEC games left. You can't just start losing all of a sudden. You got to keep it going. Nice win last night. Great pitching from Riley Quick and Carson Osmar. Fantastic job by those two.
I'll take your word for it. That's how you pronounce that. All right. That's going to do it for today's podcast. We'll be back tomorrow with more. Until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll tide.